Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
You are listening to the Brilliance Business Show, conversations with leading experts in business. And today I have the most wonderful guest, Marcia Martin. Marcia is CEO of Marcia Martin Productions, LLC, and our conversation today is producing a champion mindset. Marcia, welcome to the Brilliance Business Show.
Thank you, Mark. I'm so pleased and honored to be here. I'm really going to enjoy this.
I'm really looking forward to a conversation with you, Marcia. Before I get started, I just need to make a legal disclaimer that Marcia is not offering legal advice or legal assistance. So let's get started with the show. Marcia, can you share with our listeners a little bit about yourself and what you do?
I certainly would love to do that. Well, I've had kind of a unique background and journey of my life. From a very young age, I have been on a stage teaching people. So I was one of the original founders of an organization in the early 70s called EST, which became Landmark Forum. And I was the senior vice president there for 10 years. And I started at the inception in our first workshop where we had 20 participants. And by the end of my tenure, we had enrolled over millions and millions of people worldwide, and we had hundreds of centers all over the world. I was in charge of communication and registration. I trained the trainers, the seminar leaders, the graduate seminar leaders in presentation skills, sales, marketing, and speaking and communication. And I led championship teams, and I learned all about a championship mindset from the founder, Werner Erhard, who was my mentor for those 10 years. Previous to that, I also had a very unique experience with a distant cousin of mine, an older cousin who was a shaman, and she was a healer, and she worked with energy. And I apprenticed with her when I was a teenager. And I spent many years learning about energy and healing arts and the technology of the mind and the science of mind, how the mind works, how a human being can be more effective, how energy works, how the chakras and the healing points in the physical body work, how a person gets aligned spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally. So I was really prepared to have my tenure with Werner and EST, or as we call it now, Landmark. And I trained over 300,000 people personally in my years in my life. When I left EST, I started as an entrepreneur. I have an entrepreneurial spirit. I've created and built several multi-million-dollar companies. And I was asked by several of the people that ran personal development companies to come and consult their organizations, since EST and Landmark became the largest personal development company in the world. Many other personal development educational companies were interested in my teaching and my training of their staff and their trainers and their seminar leaders. So I worked and helped build Tony Robbins' business. I managed and consulted him for several years during the 80s and helped take him national. I worked with Jack Canfield, who is, of course, the co-author of the Chicken Soup for the Soul series, and I led seminars all over the country with him called Breakthrough to Success and Presentation Skills Seminars, and I helped consult him and coach him and his people and his team. So I worked with many of the personal development leaders. I helped John Hanley build his organization in LifeSpring in Los Angeles and worked there with Betty Spruill. So I have a unique kind of, people call me the godmother of the personal development industry or the human potential movement. And I kind of say I'm the Forrest Gump of transformation because I always happen to be at the right place in the right time. When I got into real business, my partner was an amazing designer. Her name, she was very famous. She passed away. Her name is Laurel Birch. She was very well known and an acclaimed designer. And we went to China together before China was open. And we talked the Chinese government into producing and processing and producing our designs, which they had never done for an American company at that time. And we took her designs and their craftsmanship. And then we had a large workplace and network kind of organization in Hong Kong, where we assembled all of the jewelry and the fashion jewelry. And we brought all of the designs there to put together. And then we exported all of that jewelry into different countries. We imported from Africa, from France, from Spain, from Italy. We got silk. We got old pieces of various kinds of gems. We had offices in Beijing. We had offices in Hong Kong. We had offices in New York, Los Angeles, and San Francisco. So then I learned about business and many cultural different kinds of distinctions of how people do business in the world. It was a quite successful organization. We took it to over $5 million in sales before we had to close it down. Laurel passed away. So my experience is both in service and also in products. I train people, but I also know how to run businesses. So it's been quite a run. Now I spend my time coaching and consulting major corporations, including Intercontinental Hotels, Hard Rock Hotels, Capital One Bank, many other organizations such as Warner Brothers. I work with Jerry Weintraub there to do some transformational film projects. And I got a chance to meet George Clooney and Brad Pitt, which was really wonderful during that time, which was fantastic. And I produced a lot of events where people come, do workshops and seminars. So I'm also very able and competent in filling auditoriums. I filled auditoriums anywhere from 1,000 people, 5,000 people, even 20,000 people when I used to fill the Cow Palace. So that gives you some highlights.
Marcia, that is just a wonderful, wonderful CV and journey, what you have been on. I'm not surprised you got that big deal either, because I've heard some of your stories in your workshop, and I am sure that when you was pitching the idea, you was coming from your grounded being. We can touch on that a little bit later. Now, Marcia, you have achieved so much in business. There was so much you have just touched on there, which we will go back to. I want to talk about the way you train. I myself am working through one of your workshops, and I went into the workshop thinking, oh great, it's a public speaking workshop. I'm going to learn how to be a better public speaker, which is a real interest of mine. This workshop, Marcia, has turned out so much more than what it says on the tin. I am learning how to communicate so much better, listening. Some people think they're listening. Even I, before watching your workshop, thought I was a pretty good listener, but some of the skills you are teaching are so new to me. The way that you teach them in little steps really allows it to really go into the subconscious mind and really helps to really learn what you are teaching in a really, really easy process. So I have found it's not just public speaking, it's much more communication skills. But also you mentioned about the healer side of you. That also shows in your teaching, because you're coming from the heart, and it's all coming from a great energy side of things as well. So I'm finding it's great for all those business skills, sales skills, communication skills, but also to learn public speaking, which I originally thought it was just public speaking. I can't recommend your courses enough. Where did you learn all of this material, Marcia? Because you are just like a wealth of knowledge.
Well, thank you so much, Mark. And I'm so glad that you're enjoying what we call the Marcia Martin Membership Club. And I'm glad you're getting value. Let me just explain for a bit about the club, and then I'll go back to your question. Many years ago, I thought what I was going to be doing is writing books. And so over the last 30 years, I carried around all of these videos of my workshops, seminars, courses, speaking engagements, and I carried them with me through many different homes and households. So it was a laborious job to do it. And then about 2 years ago, I realized that what would be a better idea is if I had an online digital platform. And if I uploaded and edited these old workshops and past speaking engagements and seminars that I've done over many, many years, including just in the last few years, that people might get value from watching and listening, which is what you have been doing. So the Marcia Martin Membership Club, and you can find out about it going to marciamartinclub.com. And Marcia is Marcia, Martin club.com. It's like a Netflix or an HBO on demand, where you go and you can pick any workshop that we have uploaded there and edited. And we're doing right now, we're editing many, many more. So this club will continue to grow in its content. And my speaking engagements, my podcasts, my interviews are all there. And you can listen at your own convenience in your own time for only $10 a month. It's my way of gifting my wisdom, because I want the things I've learned, which have been valuable to me, and I find are very, very valuable to many others in terms of creating new mindsets, really teaching communication in a deep, profound way, making people comfortable in being able to speak on stage or even one-to-one, learning how to sell without any effort and without fear. There's so many things that I am an expert in and have mastered that I can now turn over. And I think that this is a grand way for people to get it by registering for the club. So where I learned all of the things I have learned, I joke with my team and I say, I think I'm the most trained person in the whole world, in the whole global atmosphere, because my early years were really a quest for growth. I wanted to be bigger, better, stronger, know more. I was always exploring. I was always reading deep books. I read Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand when I was 12 years old, and it changed my life. So I was always interested in magnifying my knowledge and exploring new discoveries. And when I apprenticed with my aunt, she did a really beautiful thing. She told me that God is the same always, and that God never changes. But she said that human beings had their own perspective of God and their own way of relating and understanding God. And so even though God doesn't change and is the same, many people have different viewpoints of how to hold and how to conceive and how to perceive God in their own way. And she told me if I wanted to be an effective human being, I really needed to study all the great masters, philosophers, teachers, all the great religions, and understand people's different perceptions of how they held and perceived their own spiritual knowledge and understanding. So that time from I was 17 till I was around 20, in my late teenage years, early youth, I spent studying all of these philosophies. And that really helped me to understand profoundly how the world works, how the mind works, how philosophy works, what's important, how people can grow. And then when I was in my early 20s, maybe 21, is when I met Werner Erhard, who was the founder of S, where I was one of the co-founders with him. I was among the first 5 people that worked in the office, and we were all in the very first training he ever did, which was in San Francisco in February of 71, even before we had created S. It was a course called Mind Dynamics, and there were 20 of us there in the very beginning. And when he saw that I could enroll, in other words, he saw that people were inspired. And I was so inspired by the training that I shared about it to everyone I could share it with. So one night at a guest seminar, Werner asked one of the guests where they had heard about the workshop. And the guest said, "Oh, I'm a bus driver, and Marcia got on my bus." And when I saw her, I couldn't take my eyes off of her. She was so full of life and light and energy, and I wanted to have whatever she had. And so then he asked another guest, "Well, how did you find out about the workshop?" And they said, "Well, I met Marcia in a restaurant in the bathroom, and I had a headache, and she helped me heal it. And then I was just so astounded at how beautiful she was and how happy she was and how full of life she was. I wanted to have whatever she had." And it went around the circle, and most of the people I had brought. So Werner hired me, and I became the senior vice president in charge of communication and registration. And I learned from him. And he attracted great leaders, mentors, scientists, politicians, spiritual people, actresses, people of power, people in business. And I was fortunate to be there during those 10 years and have them as my mentors. So Buckminster Fuller, one of the greatest minds of our time, I got to sit at his knee and be taught by him. Swami Muktananda, Jerry Weintraub, one of the greatest producers of all time in Hollywood, took me under his wing and taught me how to make films and how you communicate through film and art. I worked with so many great people as a result of those 10 years, and I studied with them and I learned from them. And something happened in my brain during that time, which it really opened up, and which I think I have the capacity to do for others, which is a mindset change. And one of the things, you asked me how I teach, it's different and it's not just a public speaking course, because I don't teach the skill in the beginning. I teach the place you need to be inside yourself before you learn the skill. I teach people how to get in touch with their own personal inner power. And that particular place in a person you can access and harness. And when you access that place of power within yourself, when you go within instead of going without to get your agreement, when you go within to find your true self that is connected to the rest of the universe in a very profound way, and where all answers live and all understanding is found, then when you're coming from that place, you can come from your power and produce circumstances. Most people in life look at the circumstances they're in, whatever the events that surround them or the relationships that they have or the particular circumstances or opportunities, and then they say, okay, well, I can do something just inside of these circumstances. I'm run by my own circumstances. I'm at the effect of my circumstances. What I teach people is to get in touch with who they really are and their point of power, so that they're not run by their circumstances, but they actually cause circumstances that are needed to produce the results that they are dreaming to produce. And it changes the game. So when you get in touch with that part of you, suddenly you find that you're very creative and you have answers and you flow. And when I speak, it flows. It's not like I'm sharing my understanding with you. It's more like I am connected to myself, and I look and I listen, and I'm in present time, and I respond. And so that's one of the skills that I teach people. I work from the inside out of a person. What's interesting about public speaking, and why I chose that as a vehicle through which I teach, is that when people have to speak in front of groups, they get very scared and paralyzed. Same with selling. So what happens is, if I get a person on a stage, and you can see me work with people on the stage, and you can get the same result when you're a member of the club, and the same change happens to you, just like you've been telling me it happened to you, Mark, by just watching and listening to the workshops. Well, what happens is, when a person's on the stage and I'm working with them, they're caught up in all of the obstacles that they have. And so it's a perfect training scenario. Every fear that they have comes up. Every obstacle that they have is there for them to experience. So I can work with them in that space and teach them how to move through those particular obstacles, get back to the place where they know who they are and where they can access their own power. Then what I do is I teach them how to be present, because most people are not present.
Yes.
They're caught up in their mind. They're thinking of the future. They're worried about the past. They're somewhere, any place except here. And nothing happens except in present time. So, you can be talking, but not connecting and communicating if you're not in present time. And I teach people how to connect. Yes. Then from there, it's just a roll, because now I can teach them all the skills. And we start teaching the skills after they've got to that profound place of being able to access that powerful part of who they really are.
MarciaMartinClub.com. I highly recommend this program. Marcia, I will be honest, you could charge thousands of pounds for this, and it's $10 a month. I just want to touch a little bit on presence, which really has opened my eyes. Now, normally when I do sales calls, I will try to get the presentation done. Since working through Marcia's material, I've had a couple of sales calls where the client has messaged me saying, they've got another call in 10 minutes, and then I've had to get on the call for 10 minutes. And I know that they're not present, and this is something Marcia really does teach well, the power of being present. Now, normally I would try to still go through my presentation, and I have literally rescheduled appointments, Marcia, because I know that their mind is not on what I am about to deliver. I know that they've only got 10 minutes. I know that they're not present. But it's actually really surprising me now that I'm noticing it, how many people are not present in the present moment. They're so stuck in their minds. I would also like to add, Marcia, about your work, which you didn't actually mention, anything to do with sales or enrolling people. It's all authentic. It's all coming from a real place of the heart. No manipulation techniques, which for me, I don't like being manipulated, feeling manipulated, and I don't certainly like using manipulation on others to get people into what I want to offer them. So for me, this course is really, really refreshing, giving you skills that actually do work without using manipulation. And Marcia does that so well. Now, Marcia, you are Knighted Global Humanitarian. Can you tell us a little bit about that, please?
Yes, I would love to talk about that. I do want to add something about selling and sales, though, is that many people like you, Mark, are put off by selling. and they consider it to be manipulative. And that's the kind of selling that I call old age selling, where you are pushed into something. What I teach people to do is how to stand in front and clear the space so that a person can walk towards them into the commitment that you're presenting and offering. And it's really magical, because my perspective is there's nothing in life except selling. Life is a guest seminar. And what I mean by that is you're always enrolling someone into something all the time. So what I do is I teach people step by step, real simple little things that make so much sense, like what you're saying about being in present time. And then I put them all together so that it can flow for a person in a conversation, and so they can be authentic, offer a particular exciting commitment, and be able to have the other person enroll or commit to that commitment. And it just opens up everything. So being knighted, oh my gosh, I am so honored. I was knighted by the St. John of Jerusalem Priory and Order of in Russia. And it's a great honor. That happened many years ago, and it was as a result of the work that I've done with teenagers who are lost and prisoners in prison, and helping with feeding the hungry and teaching people to take care of the earth. And so for all of those kinds of humanitarian things, I was knighted, and it was amazing. It was done in the oldest Russian Orthodox church in New York, beautiful church. And there were bishops and banners and chanting and singing, and the bishops had robes on, and it was just this gorgeous ceremony. And I stood in front of a Russian prince, and he asked me to kneel. I was wearing a long black cape with beautiful 8-pointed crosses on the cape, as he was, and he had a gigantic, real heavy sword in his hand. And I knelt in front of him, and he said, "In the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Ghost, I now pronounce you Dame Marcia Martin knighted, and arise." And it was just a miracle, because when I arose, I felt like I had taken a vow that I would be for the poor and for the needy and for the uncared for, and that I would watch out and be a protector. So I'm very honored, and it was an extraordinary experience.
That is really beautiful and such a great achievement, Marcia. I would like to touch a little bit back on some of the product and services that you offer your clients. I'd like you to share a tiny little bit again about the marciamartinclub.com and some of the product and service that you offer your clients.
I would love to do that. So for sure, the Marcia Martin Club is a service and a product that everyone can enjoy. And you can be young, middle-aged, or old. You can be of any color, from any country, and in any job. And it's an online digital library of the workshops and seminars and speaking engagements and interviews and podcasts that I've done in my life. And it's set up so that you can click on it, whichever workshop you want to watch, and then it will open up for you and you can watch at your leisure. It's all broken down into segments and modules. You see what the topics are. You see how long each topic is. Some are 5 minutes, some are 20 minutes, some are 30 minutes. You can watch the workshop in the regular order, or you can pick out different topics from it. You can, there's all sorts of topics there: communication, relationships, sex. I love talking to men and women about great relationships, leadership, building a business, sales, communication, public speaking. So it's really a vast, fabulous, profound opportunity for people at $10 a month. And it won't always be $10 a month, Mark. Once we start building it and we offer other kinds of interactive products in it, the price will go up. But between now and the end of the year, it's $10 a month. The other products that I offer in services is I'm an executive and a life coach, and people can reach out to me at marciamartin.com and find out about my services. I take on people who want to do coaching. I ask for a minimum of a 6-month commitment with them, and depending on what kind of coaching they need, it's priced, customized. And I lead both executive and life coaching sessions. So in business, in sales, in communication, or just in life, you want to have better relationships with your children. You want to have more self-confidence. You want to not be depressed. You want to lose weight. There's so many things personally that people can benefit from coaching in. And then I do consulting and training for corporations. I go into corporations and I take their senior executives and I do large trainings with anywhere from 20 in the group at retreats up to 200 or 300 of their senior executives on an ongoing basis, maybe a 2 or 3 day seminar once a quarter. And then in between that, I put together smaller group trainings and team meetings to actually practice the discipline and the distinctions that I teach in the larger seminars. So if you're an organization that wants to have its culture changed, that wants to have more effective leaders, that wants to have better communicators, that wants to have more profit or higher sales, I'm the girl for you.
I would have to say to all the listeners out there, you must connect with Marcia. She's really changing the way that I'm working. It's not hard to learn what she's teaching. It's in such little steps what makes sense, but it makes you become so much more productive and so much more effective. If you would like the lady that is responsible for training Jack Canfield, Tony Robbins, Robert Kiyosaki, Marcia has done all of these incredible things. I would say as a great starting point, get registered in marciamartinclub.com. You would pay thousands for a program like this. Now, Marcia, I'm a big fan. I'm sure you can already tell that. We are getting close to the end of our interview. So my last question for you today is, what is new for Marcia Martin? What are you working on right now?
Well, Mark, I think this is a very special and extraordinary time in history that has been foretold for many thousands of years. And it's a time of reflection and dismantling of systems, ideas, values, beliefs, old patterns that aren't working. So what I've been doing is really focusing on building the club and making it really valuable for people during this time when I'm at home, like the rest of the world is.
Yes.
And I've been focusing in my coaching on allowing people to see the celebration of this particular time rather than being afraid. So how I perceive what's happening now is we were all kind of going very fast towards an unsustainable future. And it's like we were on a highway and it was just one road and we were going in one direction towards one place. And our only choice was, were we going fast or slow? So we might do some things to slow our journey down, but we never did anything to change the path of our journey. And what's happening now is people are starting to see that perhaps it is time to change the path. Perhaps there are other choices we can make. Perhaps systems, whether they're medical systems, educational systems, business systems, political systems, or personal systems of how we value ourselves, our family, our tribe, our community, how we've been living our life. Perhaps it's time to just stop and look and see what's not working and let that go. Let it be dismantled. and to really allow something to emerge that is of a greater order. And that's what I see is happening in humanity right now and in the world and for each of us personally. So that's where my focus has been.
What a beautiful way to end the show, Marcia. And it really is true. It's been a time of reflection, and hopefully as the world slowly moves forward, everything starts to heal. We all take better steps into a better future. Now, Marcia, how can people connect with you? Can you tell our listeners once more how they can get a hold of you?
Absolutely. Go to my website. My normal main website is marciamartin.com, MarciaMartin.com, marciamartin.com. To find out about the club and to find out about information on how to register for the club, go to marciamartinclub.com. Feel free to reach out to me personally at my email, marcia@marciamartin.com. And you can reach me by telephone at 818, which is a +1. I'm a U.S. citizen and I live in Florida, 818-395-5637. I would love to have everybody participate in the things that I'm doing and to find out about my programs and services. Thank you so much, Mark.
Thank you so much for being my guest today, Marcia. It's been a real honour, and I can't recommend you enough. I really love the work you are doing, believe in it, and I know that it gives people the results what they're looking for in a fast amount of time as well. So I really appreciate you coming onto the show today, Marcia.
Thank you so much. I'm honored and humbled to have you interview me and do such a good job and to be on your show. It is my pleasure and my honor.
Thank you so much. You have been listening to the Brilliance Business Show. Conversations with leading experts in business.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.